Hey, what's up guys? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're going to be talking about mid-size everyday carry knives. This is the Spyderco Persistence, and for me when I think of a mid-size knife, as far as everyday carry, I'm thinking of something that's 7 inches or smaller. Once you get above 7 inches, for me, that gets into what I would call the large size category. So why get a mid-size knife? Well, if you've heard us talk about the small knives and the large everyday carry knives, then it's probably going to make sense that this is going to be something right in between. So you're going to get more cutting power than the small, but not as much as a large knife. You're probably going to get more durability than a very small knife, but not as much as a large size knife. So basically, a mid-size everyday carry knife is going to fit nicely, kind of to meet a lot of different needs, probably none of them at an amazing rate, but at a very good rate. So you're going to get some good cutting needs, you get some aggressive use needs. If you had to, you could have them for self-defense needs, you can use them in the woods. So a lot of different ways to use an everyday carry knife if it's in the middle size like this Spyderco Persistence and a bunch of other knives that we have here. Bottom line, it's a knife that you can use in a very balanced way in a variety of everyday tasks. Let's point the camera down to the tabletop and take a look at these knives. Since we were just talking about it, let's look at the Spyderco Persistence. So the Spyderco Persistence is basically a smaller brother to the Tenacious. And the Tenacious I would put in that large size category. The Persistence is a very affordable knife and functions very similarly to the Tenacious. Nice size, it's got that Spidey hole for your deployment. It's 8CR13 MOV. And it is made in China. For some people that's a make or break thing, but I'm at least letting you know that. You do see on your pocket clip, tip up, tip down, right and left carry. Easy to deploy. That's one thing about Spyderco's that I like a lot. Just very easy to deploy. Full flat grind on this knife. That tip is going to be very nice for piercing as well. I think about this bag, this bag. I think about this knife a lot when I think about packages I get from different companies and I'm cutting through boxes, cutting open boxes. This is a knife that I've had on me. It just does an excellent job. It's something as simple as that. The texture on the handle is, I would call it, it's got some good grip, but it's not super aggressive. I will show you a new knife from Ontario Knife Company that I just got. This is the Utilitac, and we'll talk about that in more detail, but that's very aggressive texturing on the handle. This one is much more comfortable. I got this knife actually in a trade with a buddy of mine, and it's been really good to use. This is not going to be a heavy-duty knife as you would expect. You know, it's not just a massive, it's not a massive blade, but Spyderco makes great products. I will mention that if you like this, but you want to do something a little bit different, then you might want to check out the Bird line BYRD from Spyderco, and they've got the Caracara and some other knives. They've actually got some new ones in that line that have been getting some good attention as well. So Spyderco Persistence, I've liked it. It's been a good knife. It's functioned well, and I would recommend it to anybody who's definitely, if you're interested in checking out Spyderco but don't know, you know, are you ready to commit more money to it, you know, for an Enduro or paramilitary, something like that. This is a good way to get into Spyderco and test out to see what you think about their knives. Next up here we have the Kershaw Brawler. This is going to run you around $30. It's kind of a futuristic looking knife for me as far as like the angles. So you got the Tonto point there, lots of angles on the grip. Here's the other side, similar angles, just so you can see what that looks like on the other side. And it's got the speed safe as far as your deployment. So this thing's going to come out nice and quick, lock into place. You can deploy it with the flipper option there or with your thumb stud as well. As you saw, I do think the thumb stud is a bit close. So for my size hands, takes a little bit of working with it to actually get the blade to deploy. Again, nice utility knife. Your pocket clip, you can see tip up, tip down, right and left carry. So that is definitely a bonus. Kershaw, a lot of people love them. I just haven't owned a lot of Kershaw knives, so I've invested in other companies or wanted to check out other companies. Maybe Kershaw will be a company I'll check more out in the future. This Tonto point is, I mean, it's a Tonto point, or it's got a little bit too much of a curve to be a normal or straight up official Tonto, I guess, or Tanto as some people call it. But regardless, it's definitely got that steeper angle than something like the Persistence, which is much more rounded. So just be aware that that'll give you a little bit more strength in the tip than this full flat grind on that on this tip on the Persistence. But sometimes people find that just a hassle to sharpen because you do have, while it does curve, you do have kind of, here's one edge and then there's another edge there. So just keep that in mind. Kershaw Brawler actually, believe it or not, found this knife. And then a friend of mine was like, hey, I lost my knife. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess this was the one. So after this video is done being shot, I will return this to him. But Kershaw Brawler, $30. another mid-sized everyday carry knife. Next up here we have the SOG Vulcan. This thing is a bit more high-end. It's going to run you around probably $100. There are a couple different versions of this one available. This one's going to run you around $95, give or take. It is VG10 steel, which it says right there on the back side of the base of the blade, and it is made in Japan. So this is a handsome knife. I actually saw this knife first from, who did I say? Andy Tran over at Interbark Outdoors was EDCing this knife in a video, and I thought, oh, that's cool. I'm going to have to check that one out. So got that recurve in the blade. I think it's a good looking knife. It's got very aggressive looking texturing on the handle, but it doesn't feel aggressive. Fits very nicely in hand. You got your pocket clip there. I mean, look how deep that thing rides. Extremely deep as far as a pocket clip. Show you that angle as well. So yeah, from what I can see here, yeah, it's not a reversible pocket clip. I haven't messed with it because it's on the side and set up the way I like it to be set up. It does have this locking system that it's interesting. It does seem to be quite secure, but when it comes to deployment, this thing, your rotation point here, I mean, no matter how much I've tried over the months that I've had this thing, you really do have to flip it to have that thing lock out. You can deploy it with the thumb studs as well, but you really do need to swing it a bit. So you could probably put some oil in there, but I always like to just test it out how it comes from the factory. VG10 steel is a good steel. It's going to keep an edge really nicely. Yeah, I think that's just a nice looking knife for an EDC knife. And yeah, I find it to be pretty sleek. I don't feel like it's a big clunky knife. Very lightweight. And yeah, so there you go. SOG Vulcan, another one that I've liked when it comes to mid-size everyday carry knives. Next up here, we're looking at the Cold Steel Toughlite. And if you're looking for a utility knife, this is one of my favorite too. This might be my favorite. There's one from CRKT I'll talk about in a little bit that I like a lot, but this is what I used to call my tactical razor blade, and you can see that edge, just a very straight edge. It does have that tiny little choil there, so it does make sharpening easier than if you didn't have that choil. AUS-8 steel, so that's a lot of the steel that Cold Steel uses for their knives. There's your pocket clip. You can see you can switch. It's going to be tipped down either way, but you could put it right hand or left hand as well. Deploys nice and smoothly. It's very ergonomic the way you can lock your hand in there, and then that jimping it's aggressive enough to get the job done as far as giving you control, but you don't feel like it's going to beat your hand up. A little bit of texture there on the back of the knife. Yeah, and then as far as your it's a little bit hard to do on camera, just do it with the tip there, but you've got a back lock here. Swing that down. I've liked this one a lot. I actually had this one in the serrated knife, and I've also had both of the serrated and plain edge mini Toughlights. So this is a solid performer. If you're somebody who's you want a good solid utility knife, this is one I can definitely recommend. And AUS-8 it's a good steel. It's not an amazing steel, but it's a good steel, and the price point for this is around 25 bucks. So very reasonable considering I think what you're getting out of a knife. Big slot there for a lanyard. So yeah, Cold Steel, Toughlite, utility knife, very cool. Definitely this is one of my first consistent everyday carry knives. I had this thing on me for a long time before I just wanted to branch out and get something with a slightly longer cutting edge, but definitely a thumbs up from Everyday Tactical Vids for this knife. Now, speaking of utility knives, this is the other one that's going to compete with the Cold Steel for me. This is the CRKT No Time Off. It's going to run you around $63, $64. So you're talking over twice, almost 3 times as much as the Cold Steel. But this thing is really nice. So this is a Flavio Coma design. You can get this with the plain edge like this. You can get it with VEF serrations as well. It is BD1 stainless steel. So that's definitely a steel that I don't know a ton about, but this thing has definitely kept an edge for me very effectively. It does have the IKBS locking or opening mechanism, your pivot point there. You can see down here at the bottom, there's that little square piece of metal there. That's from the what they call the ILS locking system. So essentially it means that you can't just accidentally bump the liner over. So you got to kind of gently pull that out of the way and push the liner over, and then you can close it. It doesn't take a lot of work to figure out how to operate that thing. One thing I do like about this is very smooth on your deployment. You don't have to flip the knife at all. The other thing that's cool is appropriate jimping here. There's a little bit up there on the handle, a little bit toward the back of the knife there, and then on the underside, I'm trying to see, do they have any? Yeah, tiny bit there on the that locking system. There's actually a little bit under here as well, you can see. So this knife allows you to hold it. I mean, you can hold it. Let me get it out of the glare there. You can hold it like this, hold it like this, hold it like this. I mean, lots of different ways you can hold this knife when you're operating it. And this was designed really to be kind of like that workshop knife. So it's a nice knife. It's got a steel that holds an edge quite well in my experience, and it's got that nice wide blade. So this, I'm a little torn because I like this knife probably out of all my kind of utility style knives. This is my favorite. But you know, if you're looking, you're like, yo, I don't want to spend $60 give or take on a knife, and if I can get the cold steel for, you know, like I said, a little bit more savings than half off, then that might be something you definitely want to check out. So, and that being said, if you're like, I want an EDC knife that also can be used as a utility knife that functions well, that looks nice, this thing is hard to beat. I just really like Flavio Coma's designs in general. I just think they're very organic and cool looking. And when I got this one to test out, I was super pumped. So definitely like the No Time Off from CRKT. If you're interested, there's links down below to all the knives, including this one if you want to purchase it. Maybe you're looking for something that's got a bit more of like that classic old school pocket knife look. And so I have here the Schrade Old Timer 28 OT, and then this is the Schrade Old Timer 940 TY. This one has two blades, this blade that you see right here, and let me take the second one out just so you can see it real quick. That's what that one looks like. Knives spinning all over the place here. This one's been a little bit harder for me to find, but this one right here, I did find the information on quite easily. 9CR13 MOV steel, and lockback system here. This one down on the bottom does come with a little leather sheath, so you can put that on your belt and carry that around. It does say Old Timer right there on the sheath. This is definitely not my style. I'm much more of, I like a more modern looking knife, but maybe you want this type of knife because that's how you roll. Awesome, that's cool for you. So these are two knives that are gonna perform decently. They're not gonna blow anybody out of the water with what they do. But as far as a medium-sized knife with that old school look, these are two that you might want to check out. And if you like this general style, head over to the Schrade site, because if you go to their Old Timer line, a lot of the knives have that very classic look, as you would expect from a company or a division named Old Timer. That's just kind of what they're made to look like. So check them out. I'll put a link down below. So I'm just going to put my cards on the table here when it comes to my favorite knife out of all these. So I'll just put my cards on the table here when it comes to my favorite knife out of all these knives and all the mid-sized knives I've ever used. This right here is the winner. This is the Ontario Knife Company Rat Model 2. It's got Aussate steel. It's going to run you around $25. This is a lightweight knife despite its overall size, and this is my go-to, again, when I have to wear something a little bit dressier. So I'll run a small flashlight, and then this, I just find the profile small, and yet it's just a really good knife overall. So that's what it looks like on the back side. You can get these in a variety of different colors. When I hopped on Amazon actually to look up some of the details on this knife, this was the first one with the satin finish and the black blade, and the other, satin finish and black handle, and the other one was with a black blade and a pink handle. So they do have them in a variety of different colors. And if I remember correctly, I believe Ontario Knife sent me a couple of these to give away. It's either these or the Rat one, which is the bigger version of this, which I also like a lot. $25, very budget friendly. This is just a very cool knife, easy to deploy, super smooth. Rat, I like their Ontario Knife Company, I should say. I like their fixed blades, but their folders have been very impressive to me as well. Nice jimping. You can see how that kind of rides up and then flattens out. It's just very comfortable in hand, despite the fact that my hand doesn't fall perfectly and rest perfectly on it, as you can see. Just comfortable, just works really well for me. I've yet to run into somebody that bought one of these and really disliked the Rat 2 or the Rat 1, I would say, for that matter. So $25. I got links down below. This is the Rat Model 2, and I want to roll in another knife here from Ontario Knife Company that I just got. So let me grab that over here and show you. This is the Utilitac knife. You can see we've got the safety there. Press that forward. Red is dead. Then deploy. And that's what that one looks like. Now, I've been EDCing this knife. I've got this one, and I've got one in a satin finish as well. And it's been really fun to use so far. You can see that blade got a recurve there. It kind of drops down. You can see you can't see it from your angle, but when you rest it flat, this is the point that rests, and then it kind of curves up and then drops back down and rests on this end as well. So this is Aussate steel as well, and you can see there on that side, yeah. Joe Pardue is your designer. As I was mentioning before, the texture on this handle is very aggressive. This reminds me a lot of the Benchmade Triage. So if you, Utilitac, this is as far as a utility knife. I haven't had a chance to use it a ton, but I could imagine, with gloves on, or, if you're in a situation where there's a lot of moisture, dampness around where things are going to get slick, nice to have that nice solid grip there. I do want to note a couple things here. So when when your blade is deployed, you can't push that back to lock the liner, just kind of how it is. But when you close this, obviously when this is pushed back, now you can't accidentally release the blade. It is an assisted opening knife, so just be aware of that as far as your regulations in your area. And again, this comes in this version and also in a satin finish as well. Two really cool knives. This is brand new to my EDC rotation, and we're going to test that out for a while, and we'll report in the future and let you know what we think about that. But both these knives, this one definitely I've used and really liked a lot. This one, so far from what I've used, I've enjoyed it quite a bit as well. Here's a look at all the knives we just talked about. Once again, these are our medium-sized knives as we've been going through our everyday carry series. Let's hear from you. Which of these do you like? What don't you like? Tell us why. Also, tell us about medium-sized everyday carry knives that you've used personally and liked, and also ones maybe you've used and you're like, nah, I'm not carrying that anymore because I just don't like it. I'll give you a quick example. I really liked the Gerber Remix when it had a lock built in, as opposed to the current one that has just a liner lock. So this was a button lock, and they changed it. It used to be a great knife for me, and I just didn't like it as much once they put the liner lock into it. So, maybe you carried something that you liked and then there was a change, you didn't like it. Maybe you bought something and you're like, yeah, it's going to be okay. And now that you carried it, you're like, this is the most amazing everyday carry knife I've ever had. So comment down below. Let's hear what your thoughts are. Thanks for checking out this video, and please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids. Click that little red button that says subscribe so we can keep you up to date on what we're doing here on the channel. Take care.